Environment is the number one make or break factor for the American youth soccer player. And I'm going to touch on this and explain in greater detail as to why the environment is so impactful for the American soccer player. Kids are either going to succeed or fail based on their environment. And it's actually not just kids, it's even adults. Now, who am I? Kyle C. Wilson, Kyle Wilson, the angry soccer guy. That's still my tag. I am a gentleman that have been involved in the youth soccer game for 10 years. I've worked with children as young as 2 years old, all the way up to professional players like Luis Nani, Benji Michel, Dom Dwyer, many other players. And I've even worked with a generational talent, the biggest one coming out of Brazil right now, named Cauã Bazil, worth $3.5 million with a Nike contract. Now, I don't have every single answer, but I do believe that talking about the environment that children are in is extremely important because it's literally make or break. It's the one single factor that will either make or break your child's future success. And you've probably heard this phrase, you are the sum of your 5 best friends, right? It's like whoever you hang out with, you're going to basically represent what they look like. You're going to like fit in the middle of that. And I think especially for children, very accurate because who children hang out with not only represent them, but will either pull you down or push you to be great. It's one or the other. Now, you might be able to find an extreme example, an outlier that, they have not great friends, but they still make it to the top. That type of stuff happens. But it's an outlier, not the norm. Now, if we think about children, right? They have goals, they have aspirations. They have a dream. I want to be a professional player. I want to play for Real Madrid. I want to play for the United States men's national team. That's great. And this is why the word environment is so important, because you want to create an environment where you can surround your child with the right type of people that will help him or her get there. That's why the word environment is so important. So when we think about environment, this is family, this is the players, this is themselves, the staff, and the coaches, right? All of those things go together hand in hand to produce not only just elite athletes, but great students and fantastic people as a person. So, and I think it's very important to remember, we're not just building or creating or developing football players. We're developing people. So we want to have the right environment that not only produces great players, but also produces great people that can be future leaders, because a football career does not last forever. A football career ends no later than, say, 40 years old. Again, there could be an extreme example of somebody going beyond that, but typically a football career is not very long. So the chance of an individual making enough money to sustain themselves after a football career is not high, which means that they're going to get a job or they're going to start a business or something. So being prepared for life is very important. But this all stems back to the environment. The environment is literally make or break. And I'll give you a different example. Currently in the United States, we have a win at all cost culture in the pay-to-play environment. Well, this means that it doesn't matter how the team wins, it's just that they get a win. So they kick it, they boot it, they send it, they smash it, they clear it to get the ball as far down the field as possible to score goals. Are there some teams that don't do that? Yes. But the overriding majority, the culture, is toxic to kick it, boot it, and send it. Now, if you want to create an environment where the child is put into the best place possible, it's finding an organization or a program that has parents, players, staff, and coaches all bought into that environment of wanting to produce great people and potentially professional football players. Now, where do you find an environment like that? This is the million-dollar question. And I believe, based on my experience right now, there's only one place to do that. But before I tell you, I'm going to give you a story. Okay, this is actually true. It happened to me when I was 14 years old. I was the first ever American to go on trial with a club called Olympique Lyonnais, which at the time, they were the top club in France. They won 8 League One titles in a row. But I went there as a 14-year-old to go to the academy on trial. And I went there and I could not believe, the facilities were great, don't get me wrong, but the environment, the culture, everybody was there with, from a player perspective, with the same dream. They wanted to be a professional player and they wanted to make it from the academy to the first team. That was the goal. That was the dream. And everybody there was on the same page. The staff, the coaches were all there to continue to support that dream. Now, obviously, not everybody could make it. It's usually one, maybe two if you're lucky, per generation to go on from the academy to the first team. So I'm in this training environment, and I was there for a little more than 2 weeks. And it was out of this world to see how the players trained, because they all have the same dream. They're pushing each other nonstop. The staff, I'm not even talking about the coaches, I'm talking about the people around the facility. So the kit managers, the nutritionists, people that prep meals, the physical trainers, all that stuff are there to help produce great people, but professional players. And then the coaches are all pushing them hard to get to the next level because their job is to produce. The pressure's on to produce. It's an environment designed to pull the best out of you. So it's standards and processes. So if we want to produce better players, we have to replicate that environment, because when I left there, they basically told me, hey, you're at the level, but you're an American. I'm paraphrasing this conversation, but you're an American. We're not going to invest our money to bring you from the United States to Europe to house you, to feed you when you're at the same level as the academy. They were looking for somebody like the next Messi, which I wasn't, at least at that time. And I'm still not today, obviously. Now, because of that, I came back home going, I don't want to be here anymore. Club soccer sucks as a 14-year-old. I thought I was way better than I was because I left that environment. They're telling me I'm at the same level. And I'm going, okay, so where do I need to go? I need to go back to Europe. Well, not everybody can go back to Europe, especially after rules changed from FIFA. FIFA changed this a couple of years ago, where you can't just move for non-footballing reasons. You can't just move for footballing reasons. You have to move to another country for non-footballing reasons, so work, for example. So with those changes, that means a lot of children here are not able to go to Europe or South America. Well, now we have MLS academies. It's a step in the right direction for sure, but there's a lot of issues with those. That will be a separate video. But there's only 2 in the state of Florida. When I went to Brazil, there were 84 clubs that had free football for children in the state of Sao Paulo. So the state of Sao Paulo had 84 clubs that had free football for children that made it, that were good enough. Here in the state of Florida, we have 2. It's incomparable. Incomparable. So the only way to replicate that is through, in my opinion, something that we're building, which is a residency model. The residency model is where you bring children together, student athletes is what we call them, from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. every single day. Eventually, ideally, they would have dorms when they get to older ages where they could live on campus. But that is the type of culture, environment that is the make or break, because you're surrounding them with people that have the same type of goal. So for example, using our pillars, improving the person, improving the student, and improving the athlete. In that order. So the person comes first because they have to be prepared for life. The student comes second because that's the next thing above the footballing aspect. Grades are very important. And then football comes third because obviously not everybody can be a professional player. In fact, very, very few make it. So knowing those things, it's who we surround these student athletes with that can then go on to make it to the next level. Because let's say in the club environment, they get to slack off, the training's lackadaisical, they scrimmage most of the time. And in fact, let's be honest, most of the time, the best training is outside of club practice. You go to a private trainer, so a one-to-one session or group sessions. That's typical in the U.S. soccer culture, especially in youth. Now, with a residency model where it's full-time, you're taking those types of children and you're putting them into an environment that is holding them to an accord, holding them to a standard to showcase themselves every single day. And if they don't hold that standard, there's consequences. So example would be, in our residency, if they're not performing in the classroom, they don't train. So if they have, for example, less than Bs, just giving you something very quick, less than Bs, they don't train. And in fact, we get a report every Monday and Thursday that shows us 3 categories as staff: green, yellow, or red. Green means they're good to go, they're on pace, they're on track. Yellow means that there's something missing. So it could be an assignment, maybe they missed class, whatever it is. Red is danger. Red is you're out completely. So red is you're out until you fix it. Yellow is case by case. It could be a small thing, it might be a big thing. If it's a big thing, you're out for sure. Green is you're good to go. We get that every Monday and Thursday. So we've had student athletes miss an entire week of training due to poor performance in the classroom. That's how important the environment is. Holding the standard, which is not being done in club soccer. You can call me the angry soccer guy all you want. I'll take it. I embrace it. But I want what's best for everybody. And that's why I feel like this is so important, the environment, because who they surround themselves will either positively impact them or negatively destroy your child's potential. The choice is yours, obviously, what you do with it. But understand that premise. The environment is key and is literally the number one factor to making or breaking. And I'm sure you've noticed this as an adult as well.